Okay, I said I'd do a video about what I've learnt rendering, so I'm going to show it on this front porch. Now this is really important to get this right, so I'm going to have to do this as well as possible. And as always, you don't have that much time. You've got about 2 hours with this mix. Now, two things to start with. Firstly, I've made the mix a little bit runnier than I used to, and that's because I found that's easier to render with. And the other thing is I've made loads of it. I always make a lot now because you definitely don't want to run out. Right, so I've rendered over everything to what I think is a depth of about 5-6 millimeters. Now I'm going to check it. Here, I don't really need to check it because I can just go straight over it with the trowel, and it links between this part and this part and just makes it smooth, just like the side of a door. I'll do it there. But at the bottom, I'm definitely going to need to check the depth. Okay, here I'm checking the depth. Now, I've got to keep the trowel completely perpendicular to the wall so that there's 10 millimeters between the spikes on it. So I'll go up here, just checking. It looks like there's a bit too much here, maybe a bit too little down at the bottom. And then what I do is, where I see there's been a bit too little, I put a bit extra there. And where there's been enough, don't need any more, a little bit extra here. I think that should be 5 millimeters all the way along now. Now I keep doing that on the other bits until I get a good 5 millimeter amount all the way along. Okay, so I've checked the depth all the way along. It's looking good. Now I need to put the netting on. Now the important thing about this is I've cut it in advance, and that's because, particularly for these complicated bits, it can get very time consuming cutting this netting, and I want to have all the time for doing the rendering. So this was cut in advance. I'll neaten it up a little bit down at the sill of the window, but apart from that, it's ready to put in place. Okay, I've tapped it into place at the top so it's hanging nicely. I've got to just finish it off now at the corners here of this sill, so I'll just do that with a pair of scissors. Okay, that's all in place now, so it's just time to render it in. Okay, I've rendered in that netting now, and now I've got the pre-cut corner pieces down here, which I'm going to put on and then render those in as well. Okay, those are in place now, and now I'll just go over these exactly the same as before, and they render in really easily. And just one thing about these, they are cut diagonally so that the weave is diagonal, and that means it's just a little bit stronger. You've got some weaves that go up this way, some weaves that go along that way. All of that mesh is bedded in now, and now I'm going to go over the bottom before I do the speed skim. And what I've learned is it's really good to go over this many times, making it as flat as possible and as smooth as possible with this first, before you get the speed skim out, so that any low bits, there you can maybe see a little bit of a low bit there, any low bits get taken away before the speed skim comes out, and that makes it much quicker to do the speed skim. Okay, I've gone over that bit, and now I'm going over this. Now it's actually starting to go off a little bit, so I'll have to be quick on this. What I've learnt is a little bit of water on the trowel to do the final skimming over this, or on the speed skim, really helps to get it smooth. So I'm just putting a little bit of water on. Just a few drops, and that really helps, and then I'll go over it. Okay, so I've gone over that bit now as well, and now it's time to go over the bottom bit here, and for that I'm going to use the speed skim. So I'll wet that a little bit as well. And go over with that. Okay, so this bit's pretty much done. Now it's not actually quite completely smooth just yet, but that'll happen when I go over it with a sponge after it's set a little bit more. But now I have to go and mix up some more so that I can go over the top and down this side, link the new stuff in with this old stuff there. So I'll go and mix up another batch of render now. Okay, I've done the other side now as well. I'll go over this with a speed skim, and then I'll finally go over this side with a sponge as well. And then later I'll sponge this also. Okay, it's all in place now. It's about 3 hours after I did the first bit, and so I'm starting to sponge that off now just to make sure it's nice and smooth. There's no little ridges. And then after that, I'll do the top in a couple of hours time and this side, and hopefully it'll be perfect. So here it is, all done. It's taken about 5.5 hours and I'm really quite proud of this. It's very flat. There's slightly different textures in some places, but when it's painted over and then there's the silicone render on top of that, it should be completely flat and completely even. So I've just got to do some cleaning up now.